I said the other day at C3G, salespeople have a ridiculous advantage. And in many cases, they don't take advantage of it. Here's why we have a ridiculous advantage. We tend to be more extroverted. We tend to be better communicators. We actually like the notion, in many cases, sales and business development people, of going out and calling on new people and meeting new people and all those kinds of things. And we tend to have really, really good written and verbal communication skills. Okay? Do you know that the average job seeker has almost none of those? In many cases, they have technical competence in whatever they have technical competence in, but they don't have any of those skill sets. So here's my theory. Okay? My theory is sales executives, somebody in a hiring position, manager, director, VP, whatever level you're talking about, what they would most like and be most impressed with is a job seeker who actually demonstrates their selling skills in the process of job transition. You with me? And think about that. I mean, if you can't do that, and they're underwhelmed by your ability to manage all aspects of that process, then what's the likelihood they're going to be super impressed with your ability to do all the things you didn't do in transition in a territory? You with me? They will eliminate us if we don't do that well. So what does an executive want to see? I would argue sales execs want to see the following. Can you all read that? Do you know your product? Simple equation, again the parallel, right? What I mean by that is, are you clear about what it is you do and where you add value and specifically what you want? I think one of the biggest problems I'm seeing with people in transition is those who say, well, I've done some of this and I've been hunter and I've been farmer and I've been this and I've been that and I've even got some customer service background, and by the way, I worked in a liquor store when I was 17, so I think I could do any of those things. Now what's the listener hearing? I don't have a clue. I'm sure you're good at some things. I'm just not willing to make a bet that you're best at what I really need the most. You with me? Second thing they want to see, do you know my business? Gang, this is a huge gap for the average job seeker. This is why I say don't treat all customers and all prospects and all hiring companies alike. You have to decide. Think of it this way. I have just assigned everybody in this room a territory. You're all in my sales organization. You know what your product is, right? Anybody unclear about their product? Okay, in case you are, we have a different problem. But you all have a very individual product and you know what your product is. Now, your job, if I'm giving you the territory, we'll call it Atlanta, and I want you to figure out how to penetrate accounts and ultimately close a deal. Well, what deal do I want you to close? A job. Now, if you were handed a territory, what's the first thing you would do? I'd look at my territory and you'd figure out from a segmentation standpoint, if there's 10,000 companies in the city of Atlanta, the worst strategy in the world is to go after 10,000. So a good savvy salesperson does what? They figure out which 33 accounts actually have a good fit between my skill set and my experience and their needs. Because my resume basically sings all the things that they have, and there's parallels, and I can draw the connections, and et cetera, et cetera. Because if I just have the world is my oyster kind of an attitude, again, the average sales VP or director of sales says, well, wait a minute, get focused, right? So another good thing, when you get down to the 33 people, what do we need to know? The 33 companies. Do you understand my business? So what it requires us to do if we're taking over this new territory is we better get smart about what business they're in. Are they growing? Are they shrinking? What are their key initiatives? Who's in there that I know? All the kind of getting the dots connected. You with me? Because the worst thing you can do is go interview for any job and know relatively little about the company. And do you know that if somebody interviews the average 10 people, that I would argue 80% of those 10 people don't know very much at all about the target company. Why not? Because we tend to get spread thin, or thinly for you English majors, okay? We tend to get spread too thin in this process. Do you have a plan? If I hired you as a salesperson to go fill your territory and find a job, do you have a plan and are you executing it? Here's what I put down on my little scribble sheet. Your plan includes, how am I going to get access to executives? My plan includes, can you truly differentiate yourself? So if I did that little exercise I talked to you about an hour or a half hour ago, and I said, what really makes you different? And then you look at the list and you say, oh my goodness, that doesn't sound very different at all. And if they saw 500 resumes, it would be the same 500, all 500 people would be saying the same things. I always want to challenge you guys to say, what is uniquely different about you? And if you find, I have rarely seen somebody who doesn't have some unique capabilities. When you have those unique capabilities, that ought to inform the target companies you focus on in your territory. You with me? This is just Sales 101. And if somebody is going to hire you as a salesperson and they were to ask you the silly question, tell me about your territory plan and sales strategy to find this job, if you can't articulate these basic things, I wouldn't hire you. You with me? This group ought to have that competency above all others. Do you follow up effectively? Great salespeople are good at follow-up. After an interview, after whatever. Now, I'm never a fan of what I call the generic follow-up. Hey, really enjoyed the interview 3 days ago. You asked me to get back to you and wondered if anything's new. Well, guess what happens on those? Nothing. They don't respond. So what's the alternative? Follow up, but add value. Send them a, hey, I'm really interested in this job, and as evidence of that, I've sat down and said, if we mutually decide we want to work together, what would I do in the first 90 days? And I wanted to send you the 90-day plan I put together. Add value. Go find an article from their industry, something one of their competitors is doing that's pretty innovative, and send it to them with a follow-up. So that, again, the obligation they have to be impressed, or the propensity for them to be impressed is far greater if you're adding value in those follow-ups. Can you anticipate and overcome objections? This is why I go back to, hey, I personally, I'm kind of just bold and stupid enough. If I'm in an interview and it's pretty obvious that I'm over 50, I'm probably stupid enough to say, if I were on your side of the table, one of the things I'd be worried about is this guy still got a lot of runway left. Has he got enough energy? Because he's in the 50 plus category. I felt like it was probably appropriate for me to tell you exactly where I'm at on that. And what am I doing now? I'm being proactive and I'm saying it my way. I'm not hiding behind my age and experience. I actually think that's the biggest advantage I have. Why would I hide from that or be embarrassed about that? You with me? It's a different paradigm. Do I have a 90-day plan? Can I negotiate effectively? Do you know, I got into some sales folks that I chose them, and then when we got down to negotiating the salary and the terms and everything else, if they did a lousy job on that, they were done. I don't want somebody who can't negotiate contracts. You with me? But we have a tendency to cower. We have a tendency to kind of question, is this going to be okay? And I keep telling people, well, once you've been chosen, particularly as a salesperson, one of your jobs is to show them and demonstrate that you're effective at negotiating in a professional way. And if they taken back by this, literally call them on it. One of the reasons I think this is important is I want you to know I'm going to be the same kind of advocate for your company as I am for my family. Now, is that a negative or a positive? You bet it is. All I'm asking you to do is to be a salesperson in your job transition. Now, one last point, and then I promised I would get off in the next 4 minutes. The last point would be, I actually think the worst thing you can do is find companies that have sales openings. Now let that marinate for a second. What do you mean by that, Peter? That seems like the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Here's my point. If you look at the average sales manager who has 10 or 12 people working for him, okay? I would argue over the course of my entire career, I think I can say with confidence that 3 or 4 of those 12 people are deficient. right? Now, why haven't they fired him? It's a hassle. And if I have an empty territory, what happens? I got to work it. And by the way, I go to HR and they don't want to open a new job rec and da-da-da-da. You know how much easier it is when they find a nugget, when they find a nugget of gold like you. Okay, forget whether they have an opening. That doesn't matter. When they find somebody that really fits into their sales organization and is proactive about finding, you don't go in saying, do you have any openings? Because what's the easy answer? No. They've learned that, gang. Enough people have asked that question. It doesn't matter if they have an opening. In fact, I would prefer they don't have an opening. This is why I want you to, as a sales territory manager, I want you to learn to get access and be proactive about that. I don't want you to ask for a job. I don't want you to say, do you have any openings, because I'd love to meet with you. What I want you to do is literally go have a business discussion with sales leadership, sales management kinds of people, and say, I've been in your world, I know a lot of people, I'd just like to compare notes. I'll bet you've got some great advice and counsel for a guy like me. Whether you have openings doesn't matter to me. I want to be able to have a dialogue and get your advice. You know, a funny thing is, particularly salespeople, they love to be asked for their advice and counsel. Right? I'm telling you, we love to be asked for our advice and counsel. So use that to your advantage. Now, if in the 20 or 30 minutes they spend with you, they fall in love with your background, and you act like you're managing a territory and you demonstrate to them that you're proactive, what is that manager going to do when he goes back to his office and looks at his ranking and he sees these 3 folks at 20% of quota? What's he going to do? I'm going to step up my performance management. I'm going to go to HR and say, you know what, I'm going to make a move on this person, but I'm not going to make a move on him until you give me commitment that I can replace him, and the wheels of progress start moving. Here's the beauty of that, gang. When you go with that approach, you're the only one potentially who knows anything about what's going on in the halls of that organization. When a job opening comes out, it's a little bit like a stock tip. When I hear about a stock tip, what can I be assured of? 40,000 other people know about that stock tip. It's too late. And as soon as the world knows about an opening, it's too late. Great salespeople don't wait until somebody advertises that they need your product. What do? They go create relationship, they gain access, and they don't worry about openings. They try to understand the needs. Again, we're not selling purely, we're trying to create a business dialogue. You see what I'm trying to challenge you guys to do? Stop being reactive. You have just been assigned, I'm assigning you virtually a territory. I'm paying you no salary, by the way. I'm assigning you a territory. And your territory, I want you to segment your territory. I want you to be clear on your product and your advantages. I want you to focus on who you're going to penetrate. I don't want you to worry about job openings. I want you to blow them away. With the degree to which you have done that, they will find an opening. Okay? Is that a reasonable challenge? Does anybody want to violently debate that? Because I'll stay as long as you want to debate that topic. Okay? I have exhausted the time you guys have been so kind to allow me. So thank you for being here. I hope it's, as somebody said, 2 or 3 nuggets, maybe, maybe 1. I'll be delighted. And you guys know how to find me if I can help you in the process. So thank you. I'll turn it back over to Al, I think.